The Arctic is a vast and icy region located at the northernmost part of our planet. It encompasses the Arctic Ocean, surrounded by land masses belonging to several countries. The Arctic Circle marks the region where the sun doesn't set during summer and doesn't rise during winter. The Arctic is characterized by its frozen landscapes, including ice caps, glaciers, and permafrost. The Arctic Ocean, covered in sea ice, is home to a surprising array of marine life. Polar bears, walruses, seals, and Arctic foxes call the Arctic home. However, this fragile environment faces growing threats from climate change and human activities. The Arctic climate is characterized by long, cold winters and short, cool summers. Temperatures can plummet to extreme lows during the winter, often reaching -40 degrees Celsius or even lower. The region experiences prolonged periods of darkness, known as the polar night. In contrast, summers in the Arctic are brief and relatively mild. The sun remains above the horizon for 24 hours a day during the summer solstice, creating the phenomenon of the midnight sun. The Arctic climate is influenced by its high latitude, the tilt of the Earth's axis, and the reflectivity of ice and snow. The region receives less direct sunlight than lower latitudes, resulting in lower temperatures. Ice and snow reflect a significant amount of incoming solar radiation back into space, reducing the amount of heat absorbed by the Earth's surface. This feedback loop plays a crucial role in regulating the Arctic's climate. Despite its harsh climate, the Arctic teems with life. The region supports diverse ecosystems, each adapted to extreme conditions. From icy waters to tundra plains, life thrives. The iconic tundra is a treeless plain with permafrost. Mosses, lichens, grasses and dwarf shrubs dominate, providing food and shelter. The Arctic Ocean supports a rich web of marine life. Despite cold temperatures, the ocean teems with phytoplankton. These algae support fish, seals, whales and polar bears. Millions of migratory birds breed in the Arctic summer. Understanding these ecosystems is crucial for conservation. The Arctic has been inhabited by indigenous peoples for thousands of years. These communities have developed unique cultures and traditions intrinsically linked to the Arctic environment. The Inuit are one of the most well-known indigenous groups in the Arctic. They inhabit a vast region spanning Greenland, Canada, and Alaska. The Inuit have a deep understanding of the Arctic environment and have developed ingenious hunting, fishing, and survival techniques. Other indigenous groups in the Arctic include the Sami people of Northern Europe, the Nenets and Chukchi people of Russia, and the Gwich'in and Athabascan peoples of North America. Each group has its own distinct language, culture, and traditions, reflecting their unique adaptations to the Arctic environment. Indigenous communities in the Arctic have a deep spiritual connection to the land and sea. Their traditional beliefs and practices often revolve around respect for nature and the sustainable use of resources. The Arctic's indigenous peoples face numerous challenges, including the impacts of climate change, cultural preservation, and economic development. Section 5. Riches of the Arctic, Economic Activities and Resources. The Arctic region holds significant economic potential due to its vast natural resources. These resources include oil and natural gas reserves, mineral deposits, fish stocks, and increasingly shipping routes opened up by melting sea ice. The extraction of oil and natural gas is a major economic activity in some parts of the Arctic. However, these activities pose significant environmental risks, including oil spills and habitat destruction. Mining is another important economic activity in the Arctic. The region is rich in mineral deposits, including iron ore, nickel, copper, diamonds, and rare earth elements. These minerals are in high demand globally, and their extraction presents both economic opportunities and environmental challenges. The Arctic's fisheries are also economically significant. The cold, oxygen-rich waters support a diverse array of fish species, including cod, haddock, and halibut. As sea ice melts due to climate change, new shipping routes are opening up in the Arctic. However, increased shipping traffic raises concerns about environmental impacts, such as noise pollution, air pollution, and the risk of oil spills. The Arctic at risk climate change and its impacts. The Arctic is experiencing climate change at an alarming rate. Temperatures are rising twice as fast as the global average, causing environmental changes. The rapid melting of sea ice is a visible impact. Declining sea ice threatens species like polar bears, walruses, and seals. Thawing permafrost releases methane and carbon dioxide. This creates a feedback loop, accelerating climate change. The Arctic's changes have far-reaching global consequences. Section 7. Protecting the Arctic, international cooperation and governance. The Arctic is a region of global importance, and its protection requires international cooperation. Several international agreements and organizations play a role in governing the Arctic and addressing the challenges it faces. The Arctic Council is the leading intergovernmental forum for addressing Arctic issues. It comprises the 8 Arctic states: Canada, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Russia, Sweden, and the United States, as well as 6 permanent participant organizations representing Arctic indigenous peoples. The Arctic Council promotes cooperation, coordination, and interaction among the Arctic states on issues such as sustainable development, environmental protection, and the well-being of Arctic inhabitants. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, provides a comprehensive legal framework for governing the world's oceans, including the Arctic Ocean. Several other international agreements and organizations address specific issues in the Arctic, such as the protection of migratory birds, the conservation of marine life, and the prevention of oil pollution. Effective governance of the Arctic requires collaboration among Arctic states, indigenous peoples, and other stakeholders. Section 8. Unveiling the Arctic's secrets, scientific research and discoveries. The Arctic is a region of immense scientific interest. Scientists from around the world are conducting research to better understand the region's unique environment, its role in the global climate system, and the impacts of climate change. Climate change research is a major focus in the Arctic. Scientists are studying the melting of glaciers and ice sheets, the thawing of permafrost, and the impacts of these changes on sea level rise and global climate patterns. Biodiversity research is another important area of study in the Arctic. Scientists are working to understand the diversity of life in the Arctic, the adaptations of species to extreme conditions, and the impacts of climate change on Arctic ecosystems. Scientific research in the Arctic is essential for informing policy decisions, developing sustainable management practices, and mitigating the impacts of climate change. Section 9. The Arctic in art and literature reflecting cultural significance. The Arctic has long captivated the human imagination, inspiring artists, writers, and musicians for centuries. From ancient myths and legends to contemporary art and literature, the Arctic's beauty, mystery, and cultural significance are reflected in various forms of creative expression. Indigenous cultures have a rich tradition of storytelling, music, and art that reflects their deep connection to the Arctic environment. Inuit throat singing, for example, is a unique form of vocalization that mimics the sounds of nature, while traditional Inuit carvings often depict animals and scenes from everyday life. Contemporary artists and writers continue to draw inspiration from the Arctic. Their work often explores themes of climate change, environmentalism, and the relationship between humans and nature. Section 10. The future of the Arctic: sustainability and climate action. The Arctic is at a crossroads. The region faces unprecedented challenges from climate change, resource extraction, and geopolitical tensions. However, the Arctic also presents opportunities for international cooperation, sustainable development, and the preservation of unique cultures and ecosystems. Addressing climate change is paramount for the future of the Arctic. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions globally is essential to slowing the rate of warming and mitigating the impacts of climate change on the region. Sustainable development is crucial for balancing economic development with environmental protection and the well-being of Arctic communities. This includes promoting renewable energy sources, developing sustainable tourism practices, and ensuring that resource extraction activities are conducted responsibly. Empowering Indigenous communities is essential for the Arctic's future. Indigenous peoples have a deep understanding of the Arctic environment and its challenges. Their traditional knowledge, practices and perspectives are invaluable for developing sustainable solutions. By prioritizing sustainability, climate action and the inclusion of Indigenous voices, we can help ensure a healthy and vibrant Arctic for generations to come.
Like and subscribe to start your journey today.